Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, my name's Leo and I'm an alcoholic. And it's a great joy and pleasure for me to be here. As Larry said, I think I've been visiting my mother in England, and I was flying back and had this conversation, and Larry was doing all the talking, so now he can listen to me. It's always, for Annette, who's celebrating, is it 2 years? 3 years. It's very special, and of course, I mainly dedicate a talk to myself, and I say that to you because I'm the one who's doing it. Yeah, that's not supposed to be funny, yes. but the reason is that why we're sober tonight is because we've made choices to be sober tonight. Everything that has been read tonight is dependent upon you and I making that choice to do it. We admitted. If you don't admit, we came to believe. Who came to believe? We did. Made a decision. Who made a decision? We did. And the only reason why I say this right at the very beginning is that every AA meeting is a celebration of ourselves and the choices that we've made. And because so many of us have spent so many years feeling guilty or ashamed, we sometimes forget to mention ourselves when we're giving thanks. Some of you have a lot of tapes of a lot of speakers. You'll probably find that most of them, when they start the talk, they thank a number of people. They usually thank Bill and Bob for starting this meeting. Those who are religious may thank God or Jesus or their higher power. They usually also talk about their sponsor. They'll go out of their way to thank the people that are here. If there was a dog, you know they'd thank the dog. What is incredible is who they miss. Who they missed. Themselves. And the reason I say it to you is because, like you, I listen to many tapes. And it horrifies me that we should keep missing ourselves. So tonight, I particularly want to make this emphasis. The spiritual program is not about what God does to us. The spiritual program is how we cooperate with what God wants for all of us. This particular meeting is about alcoholism, but all of you know this 12-step program has been used for nearly every condition of human beings. From being adult children of alcoholic to being compulsive overeaters, gamblers, sex addicts. They've taken this spiritual program that was originally used for alcoholism for healing the wounds of abuse. I happen to believe, I don't know whether you do, that if the world would practice the 12-step program, it would be a much safer and much more loving world. Do you agree?
Yeah.
That's very important, because I want us all to understand that right at the beginning, because am I correct in thinking that there were some Al-Anons here? There's some Al-Anons here? Some Al-Anons here? Anybody Al-Anon? Don't be shy, you never used to be. Right, that's right, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I have a lovely story for you from Al-Anon. It's a lovely story. There's a lady who had 4 years in Al-Anon. How many years did she have? Oh, but she marries badly. She marries a very old-fashioned man. And on their wedding night, they go to the bedroom. And the man, he takes off his trousers and he throws his trousers in the middle of the bedroom. He said, "Wife, get into those trousers." She said, "I can't get into those trousers." He said, "No, and don't you forget who wears the trousers in this marriage." But she had how many years in Al-Anon? Yes, she did no more. She took off her panties. And she threw her panties into the middle of the bedroom. She said, "Husband, get into those panties." He said, "I can't get into those panties." She said, "No, and you won't until you change your attitude." Now, some of you may be thinking, what has spirituality got to do with panties? Everything. Everything. Think about it. But actually, that's not so frivolous. It's not so frivolous. Because in that story, for the very first time, you establish boundaries. In that story, for the very first time, you begin to speak up for yourself. Larry said something very interesting right at the very beginning. He talked about ism, the alcoholism. The first step only mentions alcohol. The other 11 steps are about how we change our personality. And how we become people who, speech marks, see ourselves as losers, to how we become winners. In other words, how you and I start to move from seeing the glass half empty to seeing the glass half full. That's what this program is about tonight. And you're not going to be able to do it unless you start to love yourself. Love God, love yourself. And the most important thing is many of us still, and I would suggest that still, many of us, even with 4 or 10 years of recovery, still miss ourselves. In this program, our whole lives will be changed. Because the ism is about our behavior and our attitude. Some of you have gathered by now that I'm not from Ohio. And I say this story only because it's a well-known story, but for those who are new may not have heard the story. And Larry, who's a historian, will probably know about it. There were many stories told about Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill used to love to take a drink. In fact, he drank a bottle of brandy a day. I don't know whether he was alcoholic, but there are some stories told about Winston that I can identify with. There's a lovely story. He was sitting at dinner with Lady Astor, and Lady Astor turned to Winston Churchill and said, Winnie, you're drunk." And Winston Churchill, in his inimitable way, said, "Madam, you are ugly, but I shall wake up sober in the morning." She was very quick to say to him, she said, Winnie, if I was your wife, I'd put poison in your soup. Madam, if I was your husband, I'd drink it. Now, the only reason I share that with you is because what you see in those stories, and of course they'll be on the tape, that some of you may purchase so you can listen to it. By the way, I don't get the benefit, the AA gets the benefit of the tapes. But the bottom line with it is, there you see the arrogance, and you see the manipulation. The ability to be able to make other people think that it's their fault. That's what makes alcoholics isolated. The word that would be used today in psycho language is disconnect. Those 2 little jokes clearly show it. And most of us in this room have got a program, thank God, that can build relationship. I think it's for that reason that some smart people took this program and have applied it to almost all psychiatric disorders. I kid you not, there is not a human being that I know who would not benefit from this 12-step program. Because this 12-step program, when it's really understood, having had a spiritual awakening, you wake up, hello? Hello? Now, I'm being serious, though. Because you see, we're also told in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that this program is not about what we teach. It's about who we are. It's a program of attraction. And some of us still get that wrong. We think that if we sit down and we study the big book, or you memorize the 12 steps, or memorize the traditions, it isn't about that. And many of us have already realized that we've spent so much time with our sponsorees, and yet still, they don't get it. The spiritual awakening is when you are empowered to live it. You become the healer. You become the person who at some level shows us this God who cares. By the way we speak, by the way we connect, by the way we protect us. It's very powerful. There's a story, I was going to say it's a Hindu story, because as you probably know, Hinduism is one of the oldest religions. Buddhism came from Hinduism. But it's a very old, it's an old story. Oh, we're talking old. It's an old story, okay? Old. And it's about a man that dies and he goes to heaven and he's knocking at the gates of heaven. And God says, who is it? And he says, it's me. And God says, go away. He thinks this is ridiculous. Here I am at the gates of heaven, I can't get in. And so he goes back, knocks again. God says, who is it? He said, it's me, George. He says, go away, George. He thinks this has got to be the most ridiculous thing in the world. And then he sits and he thinks. And then he goes back and he knocks on the gates of heaven. And God says, who is it? And the man says, it's you. And God says, come in. It's a very old story. For those of us who come from a Christian tradition, the kingdom of God is within you. That's what this program is about. And it isn't a religious program. In fact, somebody said it so beautifully, they said, religion is man-made, spirituality is God-given. Religion has historically divided people up and caused tremendous persecution. Spirituality teaches the world to hold hands. That's what this program is about. And for you and for me who dare to say that we live this program, then we will be people who will somehow or other have that attraction. That some of you have read about in the Celestine Prophecy and the Road Less Traveled. But it is a spiritual program. And it transforms our lives. It's very powerful. So although I'm talking about my story, it's yours. Although I'll talk about incidents that happened to me in England, it's your story. That's why you're here. Because you see, in this program, we become a people of remembrance. The Jews say to the world that I talk about the Holocaust and I speak about the Holocaust and I write about the Holocaust. The Jews tell the world, because if I don't, it might all come back. In a similar way, tonight, we talk about an alcoholic Holocaust that has claimed millions and millions and millions of lives. And we meet and we study and we share and we 12-step and we listen to speakers for one reason and one reason only, to remember. Because if we don't, it might all come back. And those of us who are living this program and those of us who are been in this program for a period of years, I celebrated, just for you to know, my 20th year on the 4th of July this year. So thank you. We don't keep the 4th of July in England. It's a terrible waste of tea. Some of you understand, good. But the bottom line with it is, if you work this program, you will become successful. You will become successful. If you work this program, your life will change. If you really work this program, you will start sorting out the people in your life that are negative and destructive, and you will seek out and embrace the people who are positive and creative. It will affect your face, it will affect your body, and the most important thing, it will affect your heart. We become this program. That's what it's about. The big book says that I am to share what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, what it was like. Annette said it, Larry followed through. I started drinking when I was, 12 years old? I was in a private school in England, and they used to give us beer to drink, beer. And it wasn't so much that I liked the taste, it wasn't so much that I got drunk, but I liked how I felt when I drank. I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a very good day. Hey, but when I drank, I was 6'2". I was big and strong. I had a stutter. I had a stutter. When I drank, the stutter went. Like everybody in this room who's an alcoholic, I thought I'd found a friend. And I thought this friend would be with me through thick and thin. I drank through university, and I drank when I was first ordained into the Church of England in 1971. For those who don't know a lot about my background, my father's Roman Catholic, my mother's Church of England. I was raised Roman Catholic as a young man. But all you need to know is I left the Roman Catholic Church and embraced the religion of my mother, which is very similar. In this country, it's called the Episcopal Church. And in 1971, I was ordained into the Church of England. And just like every one of you, I had to have a reason to have a drink. And so I decided the lost and the lonely, those sheep without a shepherd who needed me, and I knew where they were. They were all in the bar. So there you see them in here, tricky, dicky bit, tricky. So I went into the bars, and I'll tell you, if you go in a bar dressed like this, people notice you. People say there's a penguin at the end of the bar. Or walking oil slicks just come in. Everybody wants to talk to a priest, even if they don't like you. People send over a drink, give the priest his drink, give him a double, give him a triple. And after a while, people come over. They say, you're the kind of priest we like. Jesus sent you to us. Oh, yes, he did. You smoke like we smoke. You drink like we drink. You throw up like we throw up. People started to come from the bars to the church. One woman said to her husband, shall we stay at home and listen to Benny Hill? Or shall we go to church and listen to Father Leo? Same thing's going to happen. And I'm telling you, it's the truth. You will see the Benny Hill things, crazy things happen. Well, I've said it 1,000 times. If you're an alcoholic and you drive a truck, you're going to be drunk in your truck. If you're an alcoholic and you're a housewife, there's going to be times you're drunk in the house. If you're an alcoholic and a priest, there's going to be times you're drunk doing the services. I remember once doing a funeral, drunk. I followed the coffin into the hole. I tell you, it's real scary when you hear the amens coming from above. But it was an Irish funeral. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. I said, there's a priest in a hole full of dirt. We'll have to get him out. They pulled me out. We just carried on. Now, I'm saying this to you because nobody knows that other than the people who listen to the tape. Anybody who listens to, Father Leo's recovery tape, they hear that story. But nobody normally would have known. He kept it in the family. And we've all got stuff like that. Wet beds, peeing in the corner, thinking it's the bathroom. Throwing up, fears. What about those telephone calls? 2 o'clock in the morning, calling people up you knew 7 years ago. Hello, how are you doing? I thought I'd just give you a call. Yeah, sorry. What time is it in Australia? Insanity. It's all about insanity. See, our job is to give insanity a face. That's our job. Otherwise, people just hear a word. And manageability and powerlessness. To lose control. To lose your ability. To not know where you are in life. To be lost. You have a choice. God wants every alcoholic to be sober. The difference is, do you want it? That's why they say to us that we're winners. It's not that God likes any one of us more than he likes the drunk in the street. It's that we like ourselves today. That's what we celebrate about. You can have everything in the world. And somebody once said to me, is it true, Father Leo, you can't drink? That's not true. How could that be true? I can drink, you just order a drink. Pour it in a glass. I've done it before. Put it to your lips. It's not that any of us in this room can't drink. If we couldn't drink, it wouldn't be a problem. Think about it. Why we say these things? We go around saying things that don't make sense. I can't drink. Of course you can. That's why people have relapses. This is the powerful thing. We choose not to drink. And we choose not to drink for today. That's the most powerful thing about this program. You're going to get exactly what you want. Tonight, some of you, if you want to just a little bit of fun on a Friday night, you can have that. But for some of you tonight, maybe your whole life will change. And maybe your understanding of this program will change. This program is not about God. It's never been about God. It was never written to be about God. This program is about you and me. And the more we focus on God to the exclusion of ourselves, that's the key word. I'm so glad it's being taped. Because you'd be surprised how many people go and say, he doesn't believe in God. I heard him say it on a tape. No, I didn't say that. What I said is the more we emphasize and talk about God to the exclusion of ourselves, we miss the whole point. If you look at the 12 steps, or the traditions for that matter, it's all about you. You're the one who's going to make the amends. You're the one who's going to search, or not. It's a very powerful program. And it makes men and women of greatness. Amazing thing with it is that just like many of you, I had my secrets, my fears, my shakes, my going to see doctors and psychiatrists, my manipulation of all kinds of things. So how did I get sober? Well, of course, like all major things in life, almost like there is no resurrection without some death. There is no real redemption without some pain. What happened to me was I was having to do a baptism. Now, I mean, we do baptisms, priests do baptisms, that's what we do. And this was a big one, I'm talking big. Big, B-I-G-G-E, big. It was big. People flew in. Very big. And everybody was in a happy mood. Happy, happy. We're taught happy mood, happy. And then I arrived. Now I want you to understand, I wasn't drunk, I was mellow. You know what I mean? When you're mellow, you don't need any help. You always tell when the drunk's mellow, they can always drive the car home. Give me the keys. Well, I was drunk. I wasn't falling down, I was just mellow. I said, give me the baby. I baptized the baby in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Daphne. I didn't ask anybody. Daphne. The mother, she let loose such a scream. Ah! She said, Father Leo, it's a little boy. I said, I don't care what the hell it is, it's Daphne now. She said, is there anything we can do about it? I said, no. Forever and a day he will be called Daphne. How do you make amends to a thing like that? But anyway, unbeknownst to me, she wrote a letter to the bishop. Now remember, a bishop is only an employer dressed in purple. She wrote a letter to the bishop. And she said, she wrote a letter to the bishop, and I got a telephone call from the bishop. Now, if you're anything like me, you do crazy things and then you forget about them. And you hope everybody else forgets about them. So I get this telephone call from the bishop, and the bishop says, Booth, that's my name. I said, yes. He said, it's the bishop. I said, hello, bishop. He said, I want to see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Put the phone down. I thought, why does the bishop want to see me? Then I got it. Promotion. So I got to see the bishop, and the bishop says, I got a letter! A letter! I got a letter! I said, good. He said, it's about you, you fool. You're a fool. He said, are you sick? How are we talking sick? Are you demented? Are you having a nervous breakdown? And then he looks at me straight in the eyes. He was a small man. He looks at me straight in the eyes. He said, had you been drinking? Had you been drinking? Now see if you can identify with this. Who? Me? I swear on the Bible, no, I swear on the... But he didn't believe me. But he couldn't prove it. Have you ever been in a situation like that? When you know you're telling a lie, and you know that they know you're telling a lie, and they know that you know you're telling a lie, but they can't prove it. Then he said, you remember it's in England 20 years ago. He said, I want you to quit it. Just quit it. I said, quit it? He said, quit it. I said, like, quit it? He said, quit it. I said, I'll quit it. So I'm driving home. I'll quit it. I'll just quit it. Nobody has said anything about AA. England 20 years ago. Bishop. Nobody even mentioned a therapist. Quit it! Just pull yourself together and quit it! I said I'll pull myself together and I'll quit it! And you want to know a funny thing? Do you want to know a funny thing on a Friday night on the 8th of August? I That's on the tape. I quit it for 6 months. Cunning, baffling, powerful, patient. It can wait. This is a disease that can wait. For 6 months I didn't drink. And those of you who, by the way, I wasn't sober. Just because I didn't drink for 6 months, don't anybody say, oh, he was sober for 6 months. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say I was sober. I said I didn't drink for 6 months. There's a very big difference between being sober and being dry. Being dry is like a dry leaf. You know, like a dry leaf, put any pressure on it and it'll snap. I remember going to an AA meeting in Texas once. A man picked me up. He had 3 years driving a Cadillac. He said, I've got 3 years. I said, good. He's driving me. The lights changed from green to red. He had to stop. I said, I hate it when they do that. I said, don't worry, they'll change back. Dry people, they'll drive you mad. Mood swings, anger tantrums, rigid, controlling. That's not what sobriety is. And if you ever meet it in these programs, run. Sobriety is about being supple. Supple, you live and you let live. It's not dry. Sure, you're going to be upset, but you don't make a meal of it. Sure, people are going to let you down, but you don't keep it going on for weeks. Sure, people are not always going to follow through with what you want, but you don't have to crucify them for it. That's why we talk about forgiveness. And this is only an observation I've made. People who never forgive themselves find it very hard to forgive others. But if you found the key to forgiving yourself, my God, you can forgive others. People who know me will tell you I'm one of the most easiest to forgive. I forgive very easily. And one of the reasons is because I've learned how to forgive myself. For 6 months I didn't drink. And all you need to know on this night of Friday is that one of God's coincidences came. For some of you new to the program, a coincidence is when God works a miracle anonymously. I happened to go to a party I was drinking 7-Up. I'd been drinking 7-Up for 6 months. I was fizzed out on 7-Up. I was a fizzer. And I'm at this party, and all of a sudden somebody happens to be there at this party, and she said, I know you, you're Father Leo. She says, I remember you from St. Bartholomew's in Brighton, in Sussex. I said, do you? She said, yes. She said, have a gin and tonic. I said, no. She said, go on. I said, okay. Now that's how it happened. There we go. And it was on a Wednesday. Sometimes people think nothing happens on a Wednesday. They think everything happens on a Friday or a Saturday. No, it's a Wednesday. Wednesday, and it was raining. A wet day, Wednesday. The 3rd of July. Do you remember this date? The 3rd of July, 1977. Next day, would you believe it? He said, what's he holding a watch up for? Why is he holding a watch? Because you see, I left the watch at the party. And the next day I had to go and get the watch. Because I've lost my watch. I go to get the watch, and the same barman who was serving the drinks the night before, he says, here's your watch, Father Leo. You left it. And have one for the road. Cunning, baffling, powerful, patient. Last night I had 2 drinks and I went home. That morning when he gave me the watch and the drink, the lion was disturbed. And if you're an alcoholic, you know exactly what I mean. Last night 2 drinks was fine. That morning when he gave me that drink, 2 drinks or 22 drinks wasn't enough. I went from one bar to another bar to another bar, and by 3 o'clock in the afternoon I was drunk as a skunk. My car hit a tree, and then it hit a lamppost, the car, and the car shot up. The car shot up in the air, shot up in the air. 2 old ladies in a garden said, "Look, there goes Father Leo." Hey, that's how he travels now. Hey, but I didn't stay up there. Came down, crash, bang, wallop, and if you remember nothing else from tonight, remember this. I was sitting on the side of the road, bleeding and hurt, waiting for the ambulance, and I'm sure many of you had moments like this. I could hear in the background, in fact I can hear it now in my memory bank, the police sirens going and the ambulance following. And I sat on the side of a road, lost, in 1977. And I stepped out of myself. I stepped out of myself, and now I'm looking down at me, and I see me bleeding, and I see me hurt, and I see me, and I don't like what I see. It was 20 years ago. I had a moment. And I don't know, I've never forgotten that moment, because from that moment I went into treatment for alcoholism and for anything else. I'd love to be able to tell you that if you just have that moment alone, it's enough. You've had the moment. But you see, recovery is about keeping that moment alive. If you want to know who the winners are not the people who tell you they had a moment. The winners are the people who keep that moment alive. By sharing, by talking, by speaking, by reading. I saw me. It's interesting for those of us who study the carpenter from Nazareth. Having eyes, do you not see? Having ears, do you not hear? Jesus had no problem getting blind people to see. His problem was getting people who see to see. All you need to know is that I went then to a treatment center, and by the way, the treatment center 20 years ago was not unlike some of the treatment centers that we've had in the United States. And I went into treatment for 3 months. I went into a recovery home, and I was introduced to AA. It could be a talk in itself to tell you about AA, but the things I remember most and the things that I keep alive most is this. It's a spiritual program, it's not a religious program. You do not have to go to church or synagogue to belong to this program. We don't talk about a Catholic God or a Christian God or a Jewish God. In fact, I've been privileged to speak all over the world. In India, which is Hindu, in Thailand, which is Buddhism, to Arab countries. I'm going to Egypt at the end of this year. All I can tell you is it is not about religion, it's about spirituality. And I can see spirituality in the people who are using it, because you learn how to love. It's as simple as that. I'm not talking sex, I said love. In the 12-step program also you learn to turn your life. Emphasis is to turn your life in a new direction. The emphasis surely is not about handing your life over, the emphasis is about turning your life in a new direction. And this is how you do it. This is how you do it. So I sometimes have this kind of visual image of you turning around to, seeing somebody saying to God, God, take my life. take it. God, take my life. And God is up there saying, no. I said, take it. God said, no. And then God looks at you straight in the eyes and said, why do you want to hand your life over to me? Why you hand it back? Live it. Struggle. Have your wrinkles. Have your victories and your despair, but live it. How dare you hand life back? This is our time. That's what this program is about. I take this program into every aspect of my life. I speak at Christian churches, New Thought churches, Catholic churches. It's not about discrimination. It's not about black or white. It's not about straight or gay. It's about being people. We are a people of remembrance. In fact, I would say to you that if you practice this program, it's very hard to be a bigot or prejudiced. You cannot steal in this program. If you steal, you've had a slip. Because this program is spiritual. It's about being healers, not wounders and perpetrators. So you and I carry an amazing, joyous responsibility. And by the way, the word responsibility means the ability to respond. There is nothing that we cannot respond to. Our lives can be changed. Mine is completely changed. In 1977, I got sober. In 1980, I came to the United States. In my 4th year of sobriety, I came to this country. In the time that I've been here, I've never written a book in the United States, in the United Kingdom. I've written 6 books in the United States, all to do with spirituality, recovery. I'd never been on a TV show, really, in the UK. I'd done BBC, but I hadn't done TV. In recovery, I've been on Oprah Winfrey, Kathy, Regis and Kathy. I even did Geraldo. That was a trip. About recovery, about spirituality, about healing religious abuse. But how did it start? It started on a car crash in 1977. We've only just begun. I have taken my 12-step program into my church. I mean, literally my church. As some of you know, my church is St. George's in Hawthorne, not very far from here. And the last Sunday of every month, I have a recovery service based on the 12 steps. And it's a healing service based on the 12 steps. 80% of my congregation is recovering. The other 20% should be. Believe me, that's where the problems are, with the people who have not got the program. Our lives are changing. Our lives are changing. Time, we never have enough of it, do we, really? We're having so much fun tonight, aren't we? Aren't we? I hope so. Well, but all good things come to an end. And I want to end by sharing with you a true story that happened for me when I spoke in Atlanta, Georgia. It was probably now about 10 years ago, and it was about 3,000 to 4,000 people. It was a very big convention. I was a Friday night speaker. I'm off on Friday nights because I have to get back to the church. And on the Friday night speaking, I talked about the moment. And I always remember a young man, not so dissimilar to yourself. A young man came over to me. He was 19 years old, and he shook me by the hand, and he said that he was in a recovery home and his name was David. I said, nice to meet you, David. He said, thank you. He said, I want to talk about your moment. I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to talk about it. He said, because I had a moment. I said, good, David. I said, I think everybody. No, he said, I want to tell you about my moment. He said, I had a moment, and that moment wasn't a car crash. I said, what was your moment? He said, I'm going to tell you. He said, there was a song on the radio. And the reason I want to tell you is because the group that sang the song came from your country. It was the Beatles. And I said, well, what about the song? He said, I'd heard the song 1,000 times, but I hadn't heard it. You know when you've heard something 1,000 times, but you never heard it, and then all of a sudden, you have a moment and you hear it. I said, what was the song? He said, I'm going to tell you. He said, because it's now being made famous by Tina Turner. The words of the song that changed David's life as he was going out to get some alcohol and some cocaine were these. When I was a young man, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. But now those days have gone. I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I've changed my mind and I've opened up the door. So help me. Help me if you can. I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate you being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? He said, Father Leo, there was help for me. I said, I know, David. There was help for me too. For those of you who are new to this program, remember that there is help for you if you want it. You will get exactly, no more, no less, than you want. But the promises are clear, and they all begin with L. We will live again like we've never lived before. We will love again and start to love ourselves like we've never loved before. And last, and certainly not least, we will laugh. We will laugh again like we've never laughed before. I want to thank you very much for listening.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop. out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.